All right, welcome to the third webinar with Backs in Action Rehab and Wellness Center. In this webinar, we're going to talk about structuring movement into your day. If you've been following the other webinars, I am the same person, Ryan Takagi, chiropractor, Master of Science in Nutrition, and Bachelor of Kinesiology. The objectives for this webinar are to have you walking away knowing what the Canadian guidelines are for exercise, give you some examples of exercises, and then talk about how you can put those exercises into your day and your week. So the first one, what are the Canadian guidelines? We're going to talk about the Canadian guidelines for 18 to 64-year-olds. This is from the Canadian Society of Exercise Physiology. They have recommendations for other age groups. So if you just search Canadian Society of Exercise Physiology or CSEP in Google, you'll find their documents and you can find some of their other recommendations. But for this age range, they recommend 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous intensity aerobic physical activity per week in at least 10-minute bouts. And we'll talk about what moderate to vigorous means on the next slide. They also recommend muscle and bone strengthening activities at least 2 times per week or 2 days per week. And they say that more activity provides more health benefits. So if you can do more than 150 minutes, that's great. If you can do more than 2 days per week of muscle and bone strengthening, that's also great. So some examples for intensity. So they recommended moderate to vigorous. So that might be things like brisk walking, biking, raking the leaves if you're an aggressive leaf raker, dancing, jogging, hockey, and dancing can also be very vigorous. So that being said, walking, if that's your starting point, even though it's considered a light intensity activity, start there if that's where you're going to start. That's totally okay. Easy gardening is still a great activity. Stretching is still a good activity. So when we're talking about moderate to vigorous, those are some examples on this slide, but start where you're comfortable. The Canadian Heart and Stroke Foundation recommends a variety of exercises. They also recommend the 150 minutes a week for endurance activity. They also recommend strength, flexibility, and balance. So they just have a few categories for what exercises might look like. And we're going to go through each of these. An endurance exercise is one that's going to get your heart and lungs going, so you're breathing a little bit more heavily. You can feel your heart a little bit more. The talk test is a good measure of how hard you're working. This test is when you're exercising, if you can still talk, then you're probably at a moderate intensity. If you're exercising at a point where you're just breathing really heavily that you can't talk anymore, you couldn't hold a conversation, then you're more at the intense or the more vigorous intensity. Something you can also use for the moderate intensity is you can hold a conversation, but you couldn't sing. So that's a good indicator that you're at the right intensity. For endurance activities, definitely start easy and then progress gradually. So don't jump into that kind of 60-minute run as you start this kind of exercise program. Start with a 10-minute run, see how your body feels, and then progress from there. So other examples for endurance activities could be that brisk walk again, pool aerobics, cycling, running, beach volleyball. All those things are good activities to get the heart going and get the lungs going. Examples of strength exercises. These are ones that get the muscles going. If you make these weight-bearing exercises, they're also good for the bones. So the muscles are our muscles and our bones. They need a bit of stress to stay strong. So when we stress our muscles and stress our bones, they get stronger. And examples of those kinds of stresses are going to be lifting weights at the gym or at home, exercise band activities, body weight exercises, chopping wood. I grew up in the interior, so I did a lot of chopping wood when I was younger, and then stacking wood and moving that wood from one pile to another pile. All those count as strength activities. Building furniture, doing squats, just body weight squats, or you can hold your pet and do squats. So all of those things are going to challenge your muscles and going to challenge bones. You can start with just 3 sets of 10 repetitions. That's kind of the standard here, is doing 10 squats, take a little bit of a break, do 10 squats again, take a little bit of a break, and then do 10 squats again. So 3 sets of 10 repetitions is kind of that standard starting point. But if you can just do 1 set of 10, that's great too. So again, start where you're comfortable. Flexibility, and I added mobility here. These are exercises that lengthen tissues, exercises that maintain joint range of motion. The example here might be, can you touch your toes? So if you can't touch your toes, and maybe you have tight hamstrings, or maybe your nerves are a bit sensitive. So these activities or these exercises will lengthen muscles, or they will increase your tolerance to certain ranges of motion, and they improve your joint mobility. So home stretches are great. Yoga classes are really good. Doing mobility classes online, using a foam roller. All of these things are going to be really helpful to maintain flexibility and mobility. Other activities are balance exercises. So these ones help you maintain posture. Examples might be, can you stand on one leg? And then can you do it with your eyes closed? So we have receptors in our muscles that help us know where our body is in space, and our eyes also help us with that. And our inner ear helps us. So we want to challenge those systems a bit so they get a little bit stronger. And again, start in your comfort zone. So kitchen sink exercises, these are designed for an older population, but are a really great set of exercises for balance. So if you just Google kitchen sink exercises for balance, you'll come up with a good sheet of exercises. Single leg and double leg hop exercises are obviously more challenging, but again, they're good for developing balance. And then just playing on the playground, obviously not an option right now, but hopefully that opens up soon. And it gives you a sense of maybe some of the activities you can bring into the home. So that kind of playfulness that you would have on a playground, bringing that into the home and challenging your balance that way. So how can you structure these exercises into your day? The first thing that I want to mention is that don't forget about the exercises you are already doing. And so there was a well-known study from Harvard called Mindset Matters, and super interesting study where they had 84 female room attendants, and they split them into 2 groups. One was an informed group, and the other was a non-informed group. And essentially what they did with the informed group is they just told them that they were meeting exercise guidelines. So they were leading an active lifestyle. And just by informing that group and changing their mindset, it resulted in improvements in body weight, in blood pressure, in body fat, waist to hip ratio, body mass index. So education alone is a very powerful tool, and mindset alone is a very powerful tool. So as you're thinking about structuring these exercises into your day, the first thing I just want you to remember is that you're probably already doing exercises, and it's important to think about those. And some other principles: go slow with these exercises. There's a bit of a weekend warrior presentation where sometimes we'll have people come in after taking the week completely off and then doing something really intense on the weekend, like jumping into that 2-hour run after doing nothing all week. That's really hard on the body, and that stresses the body more than you want to. So definitely go slow. There's a 10% rule. So no more than a 10% increase in workload per week. So that's a good way to structure your activity. If you go for a 10-minute run one week, don't jump to a 60-minute run the next week. Just go up maybe to 15 minutes and then to 20 minutes. So just take it really easy. Same with the strength exercises. If you're doing 10 reps one week, don't jump up to 50 reps the second week. That's going to be a bit too much for the body. Take advantage of online programs. Right now, there's been a lot of exercise videos available. So lots of yoga sessions available, mobility routines, and exercise programs. So definitely take advantage of those. And these exercise programs tend to be easier with a partner, easier with someone else that can hold you accountable and you can hold them accountable. So if you can find somebody to do virtual exercises with, then that'll be helpful in keeping you on track. And just do it in bite-sized chunks. So even 10 minutes a day is good. You can maybe set a rule for yourself that every time you sit in a chair, that costs you 10 squats. So you have to do 10 squats before you're allowed to sit down. Or you can just start with standing every hour while you're working, or every 30 minutes while you're working, and just doing a little bit of a stretch. So those little things in your day, those kind of bite-sized chunks, are going to be helpful, and those are definitely progress. So that's the third webinar. So just structuring movement into your day, talking about different types of exercises, and some of the guidelines around those. The last webinar, May 14th, is going to go over lifestyle factors related to aging and longevity. And so definitely check out that one. And that's it. Those are here's the information to get in touch with us. If there are any questions, please feel free to put those into the chat box or unmute yourself. Okay, so a few questions coming through. The first is there a best time of day to exercise to reap the most benefits? I guess the easy answer, maybe cheeky answer, is just the time of day that fits into your schedule. So there's no one time of day that's going to give you more benefits than any other. It's whatever you can fit into your schedule. That's going to be the best for you. So any time of day. The second question is, what is the best way to encourage younger people to make exercise an important part of their day for those that are more inactive? The biggest predictor of people engaging in physical activity is fun. So the best way to engage or encourage young people is to make the exercises fun, or the activities fun. One of the reasons as adults, so kind of shifting age groups, that we don't have that continued engagement in activities is because people feel that they're not good at the exercises. So it's taking time to learn some really basic body movements. It's taking advantage of resources like kinesiologists at the clinic, and the personal trainers and physiotherapists at the clinic. And those resources are going to help you move better and allow you to have more fun when you're engaging these exercises. But especially for a younger population, you just want to make it as fun as possible. So very few rules, all that kind of stuff, so that they kind of stick with it, have fun, and they're more willing to engage in it over the lifespan. Third question, given that we are on our computers and devices more than ever, are there particular exercises that help counter the effects of those postures on our bodies? So yes, there's a couple exercises that can be helpful. It depends a little bit on what you're feeling and the pain that you're experiencing. So again, I'll say I'd take advantage of some of the resources at the clinic to give you some personalized advice. But just simply standing up and stretching every 30 minutes is going to be very useful if you're on a computer. You can just stand up and do some shoulder rolls, some neck rolls, just going forwards and to the side, and then just trying to move your upper back especially. So you can look up a cat-cow yoga posture. That one's really good for the upper back. So getting that spine mobility, getting the shoulders moving, and then moving the head. Our muscles tend to stiffen up when they're in one position for a long period of time. And we really want blood flow to muscles to help them loosen. And the best and fastest way to bring blood to a muscle is to use that muscle. So just stand up and move your muscles in any and every direction. All right, so that seems like it's all the questions. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you next week for the last webinar. Thanks.